Tradepreneur Show. I'm your host, Patrick Summers, and again, co-host filling in for Mike Costa is Tanya Priest. Welcome.
Thank you, Patrick. Happy to be here.
Yeah, and this episode, I think you probably will have a lot of insight. Actually, next two episodes, I'm actually doing two episodes back to back. So we're going to do this one, and our next episode, we're also going to be a part two of the conversation. And what it is, this one's geared mainly for, they're both for business owners, but also the technician in the field. And that is summertime. It happens all the time. The heat comes and we get very busy. No cool calls and things like that. And a trend happens. And that trend is revenue goes down on calls. Customer satisfaction can go down. Callbacks can tend to go up. And the overall the day of the technician becomes a little bit more chaotic. Why is that?
Well, just the heat. Things are going wrong left and right. Lots of calls out there to get through.
We get inundated with calls.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And you had it in the sales, right?
Mm-hmm.
We would, in the non super hot months or super cold months, you're going out running a lead a day. Maybe two, but then summertime comes and you're running
3 or 4.
Yeah, and there's only so many hours in the day. All right. Not only that, but something happens up here. We always talk mindset. It comes down to mindset. What happens as well. So, what I really want to talk about are some of the key things that you can make sure your technicians do or don't do. And you as a technician, some of the things that you directly impact. And the first and foremost is, I just heard this recently. I just went through some training with Weldon Long, and he had interviewed Deion Sanders. And I had also listened to Deion Sanders on a podcast. Ed Milet had him interviewed, and he said the same thing. And it's so fitting for technicians. It's fitting for life, but it's really fitting for technicians. And Deion Sanders has this saying, be where your feet are. Be where your feet are. And Deion Sanders got that from a coach, right? Because he wanted to know, how he could do better, how he could improve. Or like that coach told him, be where your feet are, right? Meaning, if your feet are here, if you're here in the present moment, be where your feet are. And Weldon Long talks about you can only be, there's the past, present, and future. And you can only really exist and be present in one of them, all right? And a lot of times when we're running calls, especially in the summertime, when it's very busy, we tend to be in the future because we're thinking of that next call. You're thinking, you're not really present on the call you're on. You want to get it over with and done with. You're thinking about the next call you have and thinking about, I may have 3 more calls. And you're looking at your watch and you're thinking, oh, I got a hot date at 4 or 5, or I got to get my kids to practice at 6 or whatever it is. And you're not being where your feet are. You're not being present in the moment. I think one of the most important things, whether you have 1 call a day or you have 6 calls a day, which is on the unhealthy spectrum of number of calls to run, be present in that call. Be present in that call. For you, that should be the only call that matters. Listen, you have a dispatch team that needs to figure out what to do with the other calls while you're on that call. Okay? So be where your feet are. Be present in the moment on that call. Stay focused on the fundamentals. Right? What do you do when you have 1 call? If you show up to work and you got 2 calls scheduled, are you going to be able to take a little bit more time with those calls?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And there's a process and procedure you go through, correct?
Every single time.
And when there's fewer calls, you might even enhance that process or procedure because you don't have the stress, you don't have the urgency to move on, right? So if you're present on that call and you have the process and procedures and you follow the process and procedures, that's right there. Those are some of the two most critical things. Do not cut steps out. All right. I equate it a lot to going to a doctor for a physical versus going to the emergency room for a pain in your leg or a cut. There's one thing the emergency room always tells you. That's why it cracks me up when people use the emergency room as their primary care physician. The emergency room and the urgent cares, all right? It's like it's your primary, because every one of them says follow up with your physician. Because why? Because the emergency room is treat and street. Okay, that's fantastic. We don't want to treat and street as a technician. We do not want to rush in and fix the problem and move on, or what we think is the problem. That's the biggest issue, right? So you go to the emergency room. Somebody gets to the emergency room. You get there. The doc says, "Oh, what happened? I see you're bleeding from your head." Yeah, you know what? I kind of got lightheaded and I wasn't paying attention and I was carrying something and I fell and banged my head on the corner of the coffee table. Oh, okay. Maybe they'll do a scan. Maybe they won't. Maybe it only needs 4 sutures. And, they suture you up and they street you, right? They send you out and they follow up with your family physician. Well, that individual goes home and dies in their sleep. See, how many times as a technician do we go into the home? The AC is not working. It's 100 degrees out. Or if you're in the desert, it's 120, right? You walk out to the condenser. The fan's not spinning. You check the capacitor. Oh, the capacitor obviously is disformed. The capacitor is no good. You put it in, the fan starts right up. So the fan must still be good. You charge your diagnostic or trip fee, whatever you charge for the repair, and you go. And you're patting yourself on the back because you've been in and out in 45 minutes. You're a super tech. And then guess what? You get called back to that call the end of the day or the next day, or somebody else does, maybe your competition. Why? Condenser fan motor stopped working. The compressor's out on internal overload. You name it. Could be something totally different than the condenser. Could be something happening up with the indoor unit, whether it's in the attic, basement, or crawl space, or garage, or indoor utility closet, or any one of the many places you can find the indoor unit. Right? So you got a callback. Why? Because you treated them and streeted them. You saw the obvious cut to the head. You saw the obvious capacitor. And you patted yourself on the chest. You were like the King Kong of HVAC diagnostic skills. You fixed it, and these people are now cooling. And guess what? They stopped cooling. And now it's 115 degrees out. And yeah, that's true. In the desert, it's 115. Maybe you're in one of these milder climates. It's only 92, but it's like 130% humidity, right? Your eyebrows are like falling in your face and you're sweating so bad. But now the homeowner's unhappy and you're going back on a callback because you didn't thoroughly diagnose the system, because you treated them and streeted them. The ER's overwhelming. You got away from the process and procedure and you didn't do what mattered. You didn't do what needed to be done. So be where your feet are. Be present in the moment. Be present on that call. Whatever your process is, follow that process. I don't care if it's, 75 degrees out or 120 degrees out. I don't care if you think you've got 1 call that day or 8 calls that day. The only call that matters is the call you're on. Now, I know if you're a technician, you're sitting there and you're listening, or maybe you're cranking a wrench at this time, whatever, but driving to your next call, and you're saying, yeah, Tradepreneur, Patrick, fat guy, that's fantastic. But the reality is, I've been called 3 times by dispatch telling me, hey, I need you to finish up. How long are you going to be? I need you to move on. Well, guess what? That's what episode 2 is for, because that can't happen. Patrick Summers here, General Air Conditioning and Plumbing. I want to talk to you about our Service Plus program. Right now, for $189, you can get your heating tune-up done, a plumbing inspection, and an electrical inspection to make sure your major systems and components of your home are not only operating efficiently, but most importantly, safely. Let's get you comfortable. Let's make sure you're safe. Let's get your systems tuned up, dialed in, and ready for a new year. So this has to be an internal, external operation that takes place. So we're going to address that because that is a reality of what happens. We know it. You need to stand your ground and be where your feet are and follow the process and procedure. You need to find and thoroughly diagnose the system. You need to present the options to the homeowner. You need to let the homeowner decide. You need to be the advocate, just like you would whether that was your only call of the day or it was one of many. So follow a system, follow a checklist. I don't care how many calls you've ran. I'm safe to say, I feel confident I can say, I know I fly a lot, travel a lot for business. And I get on the plane, I can board early, so I get on the plane, I'm sitting there, and almost every time I look out and I can see the pilot in his little vest walking around the plane, right? And sometimes it happens before we even board. Sometimes I can see it from the window in the terminal. And that pilot, now he may have just flown that plane and landed 40 minutes ago. It may be his first time on that plane that day. But this pilot flies every single day. It's his job, it's his career. But he's doing a checklist. He's doing a pre-flight checklist. He is not deviating from that pre-flight checklist. Why? Because that's what makes sure he hits all the steps. No matter how many times he's done it, he hits all the steps. It's his checklist. Now, I don't know about you, but if the pilot got on and said, hey, welcome aboard, it's a beautiful day for flying, we're going to be leaving the gate a little bit early because I opted out of doing the checklist. I feel pretty good, we're all right, you know? So, welcome aboard. I don't know about you, Tanya, how would you feel? You're a nervous wreck when you fly anyways.
I hate flying.
You start,
you've
traveled with some of the team before, and we've gone on different trainings and things like that, and I feel bad for whoever sits next to you because you're usually like, and there's a little bump and you're like, what do? You're like, ah! Yeah, Jesus Christ, Crocky. So, anyways, you're not going to want to fly. So, same thing. Like, the homeowner is hoping you're a professional and has a process and procedure, and you're not going to deviate from it. So, is it as simple as be where your feet are and only focus on that call in the moment and follow the process and procedure? It is that simple. Now, the other step is, of course, the office, the pressure from the office and dispatch to move you on. Now, of course, if you're a smaller operation, if you're one guy running a truck, building your business, or there's only a few of you, it gets a little bit more difficult. But guess what? Here's the other thing. It's okay to say no. Just say no to the right things. And we'll get into that a little bit on the next call. But listen, if you do not follow the process, you're going to have callbacks because you're going to miss things. Customers are not going to be happy with you, and they're not going to be happy with the company. And I don't know how your company treats callbacks and how it could impact you and your income level. You're also not going to make as much money. And guess what? The customer needs the options. What are the options? You should be giving 3 options on every single call you run. I don't care if it's a maintenance or it's a service call. I don't care if it's the most beautiful day in the world and who needs heat or air conditioning. I don't care if if it's like a life or death situation, and by God, you better get me cooling or heating. It does not matter. Follow the process. Present the options, 3 options. Every call, 3 options. Good, better, best, must, should, could, ABC. You know, I don't care if you go backwards in the alphabet. I don't care if you call them 3, 2, 1. Just present 3 options, because there's always options. Customers love options. Customers deserve options. Do not get there and find the one issue and tell them that's a problem and fix it, because it's always more than that, right? Now, they may opt to only fix the obvious. That's fantastic. And then when you have the other recommendations and you write, and they're documented, and then you put customer went with option A or must to fix, replace capacitor, system operating at this time. Customer refused recommendation B and C, or 2 and 3, or you and me, because they only wanted that taken care of. Now when you go back, you can say, you know, it's not a callback now, because they had their options and they chose their options. Never withhold options from a homeowner. Tanya, I know you've been sitting over there listening to me just go, but you've been in the field as a salesperson. What can you add to this as far as advice and how to make sure you maximize what you're doing on that call for maximize revenue, maximize customer satisfaction, and reduce callbacks and issues like that?
Yeah, I mean, a lot to what you're saying is, you know, it's really important that we are taking our time and we're looking at all the different scenarios, because you know, the capacitor, for instance, that you were talking about. Did anybody check the electrical panel? Is there something going on with the electrical? Is there something going on with the disconnect box? And then, you know, the clients have us come out there. They're spending the time with us. They want us to look through everything and just make sure that they're safe in all ways. So getting up in that attic, looking at the furnace, not just the condenser, and being there for, you know, just that. Just an example, I know that we're breakers. We've gone out, we charged diagnostic, and all we did was do the breaker, but we didn't look at the system, we didn't look at everything. When you're there, you have that opportunity with your client.
Okay, good. I'm glad you said we're breakers. I was like, what are we breaking?
Breakers.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. Yeah, it's as simple as that. See, there's no magic number. Now, I will tell you, I've been on a rooftop at 2 in the morning. A headache so severe because my blood sugar is so low. All I want to do is get that customer handled and go home or go to the next call. I get it. I know what it's like. But this is where it's a 2-part approach. You as the technician has to do the right thing and follow the process and procedure. And then, of course, the company does as well. Dispatch has to as well. And again, one of the most powerful words is no, when used appropriately in the right scenario. And I can speak from experience as a technician. There's been times I've gone out on a call, and I get out on a call, and it is my 5th call of the day, and it's only like 2 o'clock, and they're just running us hard. And it's a commercial unit where there's a tenant present, and that should not be a same day no cool call, right? That's an internal fix that has to happen. Now, it can be a same day no cool call if the dispatch board and calendar allows for it, but in many cases it's not going to, and you have to prioritize. And we're going to talk about that in the next episode. You know, I'm going to have a handout, a checklist that we use that I'm going to share with you. It's going to be downloadable on our website at thetradepreneurshow.com. Feel free to use it, take it, and adjust it for your company or for you as a technician, but follow the steps. Don't deviate from the steps. You know, these episodes, they're not real long. I can't go into all the great details that I'd like to. I could sit and talk for hours on this stuff. That's why I like to create the handouts. And you will see in short order some tutorials and some training videos that will go into greater detail on things on the website. That will be, you know, I'm just going to give it to you. I want you to have access to it. I really appreciate you tuning into the Tradepreneur Show. This is going to wrap up another episode of the Tradepreneur Show. Second, with my guest co-host, Tanya Priest, Comfort Air Extraordinaire. Appreciate your support. I'd love for you to share the podcast with anybody you know in the trades that you think may benefit. Appreciate any likes, comments, feedbacks. Find us not only on the audio, wherever you can find a podcast, but our YouTube channel as well. Check us out there. We've got more than just the podcast episodes. We got some clips and some shorts and some things like that. Be great. The next episode, we're going to be discussing the dispatch side of this equation, the call-taking side of this equation. Tanya has ran a call center for us. She's also dispatched, so she's going to have a lot of input to bring. So tune into the next episode. If you're a technician, listen to this. Tell your dispatchers, tell your business owners about it. You're not going to want to miss it.